This is New Amsterdam Vape, and in this video I'll be reviewing the Avocado 24 by Geek Vape. The Avocado 24 is a larger version of the Avocado from Geek Vape. This is a Genesis style tank which has the liquid kept under the deck and it's drawn up from underneath by the wicks. The larger size of the Avocado 24 allows for more room in the deck for bigger builds, as well as more liquid capacity. The Avocado is 24mm in diameter, and has a height of 43mm from the base of the deck to the top of the drip tip, with a liquid capacity of 5ml. The tank comes with a lot of spare parts, like a screwdriver with spare screws, a 510 drip tip and drip tip adapter, ceramic coil plugs, a spare glass window, and a lot of spare O-rings. Looking at the Avocado up close, it's a very large Genesis style tank. There's two adjustable airflow slots on the sides, and the top cap spins freely so you can open or close the airflow as much as you want. The wide-bore Delrin drip tip has threads, which allows it to screw into the top cap. The Avocado does have an adjustable pin on the 510 connection, and it should fit most any device. But the pin keeps the entire tank together, so you can only adjust it so much. The top cap is kept on the deck by two O-rings. The deck has two velocity-style posts, which makes building on the Avocado very easy. There's four very large wicking slots to allow the wicks to drop down into the tank. There's a small movable arm on the side which reveals the two slots to fill the tank with liquid. The slots are covered with a large silicone piece which keeps it from leaking. The two liquid slots are large enough for most any glass dropper bottle to fit. The coil plugs fit into the wicking slots to plug them up and allow for single coil building. These come in handy if you're looking for a single coil low wattage flavor build. The pin is adjustable, but keeps the entire tank together. When you unscrew the pin, it'll loosen one of the posts. The pin has an insulator at the end, and it connects directly to the post through the tank. The deck unscrews from the bottom of the tank, which reveals where the pin passes through. There's a very small insulating ring that fits between the deck and the bottom of the tank. This pin is very small, and it's very easy to lose, so be careful when taking the tank apart since there's no backup ring. The glass is held between the deck and the bottom of the tank with two O-rings, allowing you to change the color of the O-rings or change the glass. To reassemble the tank, put the small ring back on the pin and screw the deck to the bottom of the tank. Place the post in the deck and screw the pin in to keep the post and insulator on the post secure. I made a dual coil Clapton build on the Avocado. I really like velocity style posts since they make building very simple. The real challenge with the Avocado is wicking. I have this large fluffy sheet of organic cotton that I'll cut in half to make two wicks. I'll twist and roll up each sheet until I get a nice even wick. Pass the wick through the coil and find a nice snug spot in the middle of the wick. I like to trim the arms at the bottom of the tank so they're long enough to reach into the bottom. Using tweezers, I'll push the wicks into the wicking slots. The wicking slots are large enough that shoving the cotton in should be easy, even if you're using a thicker wick. I'll repeat the process on the other side, finding a snug spot in the middle of the wick and trimming the arms to be long enough to reach the bottom of the tank. I'll shove the wicks into the wicking slots, and I'll also use a small screwdriver to help push the cotton into the bottom of the tank. You can see the cotton inside the tank just touching the bottom of the tank. I'll start priming the wicks around the coil with liquid. When the wicks are primed around the coil, I'll open the small door for the liquid slots. Slowly fill the tank with liquid in one hole as the air escapes into another. While the tank is marketed to hold 5ml of liquid, it'll hold a bit less depending on how much cotton you push into the tank. Once the tank is full, I'll close off the door on the liquid filling slots and give the coils a few test fires. As you test fire the coils, watch the air bubbles inside the tank. If they're moving around as you fire, then that indicates that there's a change in pressure as the wicks draw up liquid. With the coils and wicks all set, place on the top cap and you're ready to vape. I tested the Avocado with a dual Clapton build at 0.3 ohms, between 30 to 60 watts, but I found that 40 watts was my sweet spot. There's a surprisingly high amount of airflow on this tank, but I prefer it with the airflow closed down to one of the smaller airflow holes. With the airflow closed down, there's a good amount of flavor with this tank. I also made a single coil build using the ceramic plug with a regular micro coil, and I got much better flavor than the Clapton coils. This tank can produce a lot of clouds if the wicks can keep up. With this build, I'm sure I can push the wattage higher, but I don't like too warm of a vape. The key to the Avocado is in the wicking, and the performance depends heavily on the wicking. I like to go light on the wicking to avoid dry hits, but too little and the tank can leak quite a bit. Moving on to the pros and cons, as a pro, the Avocado 24 is a great Genesis style tank that performs almost like an RTA. I like to keep my builds simple, but I'm sure a more seasoned builder can push this tank even further. There's plenty of building options with this tank. I always appreciated that Geek Vape doesn't forget about single coil builders, but there's plenty of airflow to keep up with a dual or quad coil build. The price is another pro. You can get the Avocado 24 for $33.99, which is a good price for a great tank. Remember, you can get 15% off at heavengifts.com when you use the coupon code ANEWAMSTERDAM. I was never a fan of Genesis style tanks, and while this tank has changed my opinion on them, the tank is still limited by the user's wicking ability. Depending on how well you can wick will determine the performance of the tank and whether it'll leak or not. I haven't had any major leaking issues with the tank, aside from condensation in the top cap, but too little wicking material can cause some major leaks. The tank is difficult to take apart, especially if it's completely dry. It's easier to come apart when there's some liquid to keep it lubricated, but when I first got the tank, it was very difficult to take off the top cap. If you want to take apart the bottom of the tank to clean out, you have to remove the adjustable pin and then screw the tank apart from the deck, which can get stuck together sometimes, so it'll take some extra force to remove. The tank has a few pieces that are very easy to lose, and there's no spare. The tank comes with plenty of spare O-rings, but losing the tiny ring or any of the pieces on the tank or the insulator on the velocity post, and the tank is just about useless. It would be nice if they provided a few extra of these pieces. Overall, the Avocado 24 is a great performing Genesis style tank. It seems that Geek Vape is upgrading their line of products to a larger diameter with velocity posts across the board, and I think it's working well. Personally, I like the Griffin better than the Avocado, but the Avocado does have merit. If you're looking for a high-performing Genesis-style tank that can use organic cotton instead of the old metal mesh, then this is the tank for you. This is New Amsterdam Vape, and if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe.